Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unjuggle the Struggle with Friends edition. Today we have got Heather Hakes joining us for a conversation all about mindset and then unjuggling some relationship stuff too. So Heather, thanks for being here today.
So stoked to be with you.
All right, so tell us a little bit who are we talking to? I want to hear a little bit about your story. Introduce yourself.
Well, I'm located in Denver. I've been on a personal development journey. I'm currently 39 years old. And I grew up watching Oprah and Dr. Phil. That's what I came home to in elementary school. That's when I learned about the gratitude practice and human psychology and potential. So I've been doing this stuff literally 30 years. And I guess the big thing there is I did what we're conditioned to do, status quo. I chased the
Mm,
norm, and it turns out the American dream wasn't my dream. So, what I'm all
mhm.
about is helping other people get unstuck. I think a lot of people feel that way. The biggest things I see is one, lacking clarity or stuck mentally, financially, and in relationships. And those are the three biggest ones.
Yeah.
But when you understand you are the common denominator in every area of life, when you change the inside, everything externally changes with it.
Mhm, mhm. I love how, you're talking about, you were watching Dr. Phil and Oprah. I was watching, Friends, and I think at one time it was, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, I really appreciate that you were already just, you just naturally gravitated to it. What has been what's something that comes up for you that's been just a really pivotal moment for you?
Oh gosh. Pivotal moment. I think the biggest one is when I was 30. I had everything that I was told would make me happy. I was engaged to be married. We had each sold our homes, bought a home together. We're planning the wedding. I had climbed the corporate ladder. I had everything, externally looked great. Talk about my highlight reel, right? Social media.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
inside, I was not happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I was going through the motions, questioning everything. And so when I was 30, that was my big wake up call. 2 months before the wedding, I walked away from all of it. Shortly
How?
after I got my first coach, within a year, I quit my job. Like, I had this huge
Wow.
rock bottom experience, but, like, grow through what you go through, and that's when I began my hero's journey.
Oh, yeah. So how do you when you are in this, rock bottom moment,
Oof.
how do you choose something different?
For most people, it's not until the pain and struggle gets so bad that you have no other option but to make a new choice. And that's where
Yeah.
I was. Well, so ended the engagement, moved out of the house, moved in with my parents when I was 30. I felt like such a loser.
Oh.
They live out way southeast of Denver, so I had a 3-hour daily commute. So I'm just like piling on the suck. So then I get into drinking and eating, like I'm numbing. I'm just trying to get through it. And finally, for me, it was really like I was muffin topping, couldn't fit in my clothes, felt like a POS. I wasn't happy. And that's
Mhm.
for most people, it hits that rock bottom, not happy, divorce, bankruptcy, health scare for the wake up call,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yep, the wake up call. I think too, for me, so I kind of had this wake up call similar to you, where in the corporate job, I've got everything that they would say from what they right, the quote on the they say success looks like, and it was like this wake up call of just I was in a different situation than normal. So I was actually driving to a conference from Denver to Kansas City, and I just had this emotional release where it was like all I could hear was just this radiating, like, what is this all for?
Mm.
What is this all for? What is this all for? And I started just getting really curious about, okay, if this is just to check a box, there's got to be more than this. If there's got to and again, what is it all for? And I started just getting really curious about what that would mean for me, for my life. And I'd say that was part of the wake up call. But in my stubbornness, so I'm curious if you did this at all. In my stubbornness, I was like, only listened to half of the voicemail coming through. And then I kind of slammed the phone down because that was going to require me to make some big changes in my life. And so I spent about a year and a half, like, I guess you could say the equivalent to almost like picking up the phone and listening to only parts of the message until I could actually stomach the full message, where it was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to change everything. I'm gonna have to change everything. So were you stubborn in your wake up call at all? Or did you knew this big like upheaval of your life needed to take place?
For me, and I understand what you're saying. So I just had this intuitive nudge. And I think what you pointed on, a lot of people have that question. Is this all there is? Like there's got to be more. And that's where I was. So what happened, what I shared with you, kind of my rock bottom, that was in the fall of 2015. So going through all of that, finally selling the house, finally getting back on my feet, took 10 months. So now we're
Okay.
in May of 16. That summer I joined a group coaching. It was the dream starter, how to leave your 9 to 5. So
Okay.
that's where I began kind of the coaching realm. So I
Mhm.
joined this 9 to 5 group that fall, the fall of 2016. Watched I'm Not Your Guru with Tony Robbins on Netflix. Then I invested in my first one-on-one coach, and I just kept following the breadcrumbs. So the good thing, I live in a state of curiosity. I think that's been my greatest driver. But
Mhm.
the fall of 16, I got my first one-on-one coach, and Coach Dietz, I knew I was setting myself up to, I had to leave my job because I was so unhappy, so unfulfilled. So I knew it. And if like I just felt this, like I'm just following the nudge. I'm just following the nudge. And you're never going to feel ready. That's the big thing. So
Yeah.
I did sit on it for a few months. One, I was waiting for in March of every year, we always got our
Oh,
bonus
the
payout.
bonus.
So I wasn't gonna leave that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I waited till March, and then there was never a good time, and finally I just pulled the plug.
Yeah.
And the sense of freedom and liberation, I felt alive.
Alive, I love that. Same, I had that same, it was almost immediately. It was the, like, kicking, it kind of felt like kicking and screaming, didn't wanna do it, but knew I needed to do it for myself, like, that nudge, that intuition was so loud, and then the second I pulled the plug, I mean, I felt so alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so free, so free. I love too that you mentioned like just being in a state of curiosity. I think that that's really important. And then also too, I love that you're talking about the impact of coaching on your life, because I think that over the last couple of years, I've really seen coaching start to become a little bit more, at least for me, mainstream. But I'm always so shocked how many of even like my close friends don't even quite realize how like what coaching is, that it's this entire, I mean, it's like $1 billion a day industry.
Yeah.
It's insane, absolutely insane. So you could tell the impact that coaching has had on your life, but is there anything like, where are some of the biggest areas you've just seen huge changes because of coaching?
One thing I'll say is, and I fell into it, there is a trap in the personal development world. There is a trap, and it's easy to become a shelf help junkie. So, one, like constantly consuming and have all the books on your shelves, but maybe not reading them. And, like, chasing that next high, and I definitely found myself in that space because when you get into these big environments, I'm not gonna name any names, but when you get into these big environments and the high energy, it is intoxicating, and you do wanna chase that next high only to find yourself back where you were.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I found the teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza 5 years ago.
Wow.
Dispenza's work, because it's the science, like how our brain works, mixed in with the spirituality of the universal laws. Once it was like my left and right brain finally got married. There wasn't this separation of the analytical, logical mind and like
Yeah.
I married them. And it was these teachings that finally I understood the embodiment, the application of everything I was
Mhm.
learning. There's this
Mhm.
big thing in personal development. Knowledge is power. No, it's
No,
not.
it's not. Agreed.
I
It's not.
say knowledge is potential power. Listening to this podcast, but like I give tangible, practical takeaways. Go implement what you're learning and your life will change.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. So how are you using that? You kind of like fast forward us. So now we are so you've been an entrepreneur for quite some time now. And even in my own entrepreneurial journey, like I'm recognizing how it's almost like, okay, what's the next level? What's the next level? What's the next level? So how do you lean into that coaching, and how are you working through and kind of unjuggling some of your next levels?
The biggest thing, the mindset shift I've had is that there is no destination. When I shifted the perspective that this is a
Mhm.
journey, I am on a life marathon. There is no finish line until I don't wake up someday. So when I
Yeah.
understood that this is a journey and like to have fun in the journey, like when I'm overcoming these obstacles and challenges that are always self imposed, like who I become, like the growth and evolve and expansion of who I become, that's what the human experience is for.
Yeah.
And so I'm not chasing those things anymore. Yes, I have big, hairy, audacious goals and visions and things I want to experience in my life, but be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Enjoy today.
Mhm. 'Cause it's meant for you. Whatever the circumstances are, good, bad, negative, happy, sad, positive, however you wanna perceive it, like, the experience that you're having, it's meant for you, for your growth, for your development, for your evolution. Yep. So what is one thing, for instance, like, in your business right now that you're trying to level up, and you're really just having to be intentional with the things that you know, but maybe in the moment don't feel?
My big thing is, again, as a solopreneur, like I'm juggling so many things. I wear a ton of hats. I've had to learn a ton of new skills. And so for me, it's like that constant refining my message. Who do I really want to work with? Because if you're casting a wide net, you're going to speak to no one. And I've
Mhm.
gotten really clear and I just pay attention to patterns. So this is my left brain coming in, but I pay attention to patterns. I have an athlete mentality. I'm an endurance athlete. I tend to attract very driven, ambitious entrepreneurs and business owners who also have that athletic or military background. So I just pay attention to the patterns and I realize, okay, I'm not talking to everyone. I'm not talking to personal development 101. Like, that's too it's too far to try to pull you along to where I'm at. I need somebody that has some foundation, is coachable, driven, ambitious, and will apply the works. And so really, I do work with those high achiever entrepreneur business owners that just want to get to the next level.
Yep. So then in like the next level of your business that you're working through, have you spent some time trying to almost like kind of be the everything for everybody? And so this is a new season for you where you're kind of working through what niching down might mean. Is that right?
What it really comes down to, again, I had to stop consuming because I think that's where I get overwhelmed and analytical and like I just it even causes some confusion. So I've just got to I just slow down the consumption. It's just not really what I'm doing right now. And I'm just applying everything I know. And I do best when I like taking difficult topics. So quantum physics is a big one. And I nerd out on like learning it and digesting it into more simple terms so that everyday people can apply it. And what it really comes down to, no matter where you're at in life, it's a reinvention of yourself. It's and what it's called in this work is like an identity shift. So I help
Mhm.
people create and walk into their version 2.0. So think about it like this. How often do our phones and computers update and upgrade the system?
All the time.
All the time. As humans, as individuals, the stats are that by the time we're 35 years old, we're a set of conditioned programs and that nobody really outgrows like past 35. So think about
Wow.
it. I work with a lot of midlife crisisers. So you're in
Mhm.
your 40s, 50, whatever. Nothing in your life has really changed. You can pick up 6 years ago on to today because a lot of people I talk to are dwelling on the past from years ago. So
They
They're
get stuck
stuck on that hamster wheel. Think about it. What's the definition of insanity?
doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
So I come in and I help you break those patterns, course correct, create a new path, a new framework to get you where you want to go.
Yep. Yep. And you're finding that that's a very specific client that that's ready for that kind of shift, ready for that kind of it's not just like a nice gentle let me help you off the hamster wheel. It's more of like a throw the hamster wheel out the cage. In fact, we're going to explode the cage while we're at it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so one of my clients, I've never thought of it this way, but I think what he said is, it's like the top one percenters. The
Mm.
one percenters aren't lucky. They're doing things differently. They have self mastery, mental, emotional mastery. They have clear vision. They have confidence. They have conviction. They have belief, and they show up every single day.
Yes.
The
Yes.
other 99% inconsistent, lack clarity, going through the motions in autopilot. Like we all can have what the quote one percenters how they live. We all can have that. Not
Yep. Come
everybody
on.
wants it.
Not everybody really wants it. Yep. I love Heather, like what's just jumping out at me, like your confidence is incredible. So I'm curious, do you ever struggle with self-doubt? Or if you do, like what does that look like and how do you navigate it?
Oh, girl. So when I
Ah!
started my, of course I do. I'm still human. And Elon Musk and Jeff, those guys have self doubt too. It's a universal human experience. However, 2017, I mean, I call entrepreneurship personal development on steroids.
Yes.
So when I
Totally.
started in 2017, I'm not making progress. I really, really want it. I want to create impact and income and $0 in my bank account. So I had to sit down and like, what's going on? I had to get it out of my head onto pen and paper.
Yeah.
And I got really clear. Who had I been being? How was I showing up? What were my thoughts? What were my habits? I was full of three things: self doubt, feeling like an imposter, which led to procrastination.
That's powerful.
So you can see, and now I got to see it on pen and paper, and I was like, oh, well, what's the opposite of all of that? Confidence, clarity, consistency.
Yes.
And here's how I have built a resilient mindset, grit, and I keep showing up. I do it through physical feats.
Ah,
So I'm a marathoner, then I got into triathlons, now I'm doing endurance feats, I'm going to be running an ultra. Like I am putting myself consistently in uncomfortable physical challenges so I can face that little, that negative narrative, the self-doubt, talking yourself out of greatness. And I learned how to nope, not today. Nope, not
not
today.
today.
And I keep showing up. That's
I
it.
am so grateful you mentioned that because so I've gotten into a new season myself where I was looking at just the different pieces of my life and just where I was feeling really fulfilled and then areas where I was kind of maybe not no not kind of let's be real transparent here where I was definitely taking the back seat on. And over the last year I would say like my physical health, I'm fortunate enough that I don't have any issues, but so therefore, I've kind of let it take a back seat over the last year. And it wasn't until I think just about a month ago, maybe. And it was like, I've got to do something. I don't want to do it. I have a whole bunch of self doubt on if I'm even capable of doing it because I haven't really moved in a, like, in an, not excessive, but I haven't really moved in like an explosive way in a very long time. And so it was one of those, well, let's sign up for the triathlon because I know if I can get my mind right, I know that if I have something I'm looking forward to, that yet again, I can prove to myself physically, like it's the very apparent reminder that I can do these things. There is no room for self-doubt. There is no room for like even not having the confidence or the courage to try it. So you give me hope of like this triathlon is going to be everything I need it to be.
And it's going to challenge you. So I grew up swimming, water skiing, and tubing, but let me just share, not to scare you, but Swimming, treading water behind a boat and waiting for a boat to pick you up versus open water swim could not be more different. So, after my humble sprint triathlon experience, I then got a swim coach for my next one. Like I needed to learn. I had to put there are places, thank goodness, where we're located in the different reservoirs. Oh, you have to have open water swim practice. Don't just swim in a pool.
Okay, deal. I'm taking all the advice, all the help I can get because
Yeah.
not too much actually like scares me, but I gotta say I'm a little shaken in my space boots on this one.
Good for you. You know what? And this takes, I just want to share this real quick. I've learned to let fear fuel me, not rule me. So there's
Mm,
fear versus like excitement and anxiety are very similar physiologically. So increased heart rate, tightness in the chest, maybe sweaty palms. But I've learned to, I literally love that feeling in my stomach, the fear, and then I go towards the thing because I know that's where my growth is.
yes. Yeah, let it be the motivator.
Yeah.
Love that perspective. So cool. Okay, so you have got obviously like you are a total BA of a businesswoman, of a coach, of a mindset master. And I know we kind of I normally I like to kind of hit this, hey, what are you on juggling first? But I think we kind of went to like th- what you're already so wonderful at. So I know the other thing that we had just talked about, like, hey, we want to bring this topic up because I know I've got some friends who are dealing with it. And I think that this is a really place that you can serve is talking about relationships. So you set this one up for us.
I have I mean, even since I was a teen, I've always been very observant. I I have only had a handful of real relationships. Like I've dated a ton. But I've only had a handful of real relationships because I've always learned a lot watching other people. But here's where
Mm,
it got to for me in relationships. And I know it's a big pain point there. Even though we're all in this day and age so, quote, connected via social media, we're more disconnected and lonely than ever.
agree. Agree.
But here's my take on relationships. And funny enough, most of my clients come to me. They're very successful in business and financially, but not in relationships or maybe health.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, and think about it like relationships are our biggest learning opportunity. We have relationships in every area of our life familial, friend,
Mhm.
romantic, work, etc. And relationships are our greatest mirror for like unhealed stuff within. So, for example, what I shared with you in before the call was it wasn't until my late 20s, I think like 28, 29, I was fed up. I was tired of dating the same kind of guy, different face. And it really was that
Mm,
epiphany. I keep dating the same guy with a different
different
face.
face.
And I was like, what's the common denominator? Me.
Hmm.
And so that's when I sat down and like this is a real big takeaway I offer individuals to do is like you've got to do some self inquiry. Ask yourself some questions. In any area of life in which you feel stuck, do some journaling. And that's what I did. So I sat down and I got clear. Found the common denominators. It was me. What in me was attracting this same kind of guy? So I love this. Dr. Wayne Dyer said, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are.
Hmm.
So, for example, if you have unhealed emotional trauma and baggage, you can only attract an equal. And so I'll just share with you. I've just hit a year since my last relationship, and it was long distance, moved to Texas. We were getting ready to elope. Like it was a serious relationship,
Pretty serious. Yeah.
and it didn't work out, and I'm back in Denver. But I took this last year very intentionally because it's like, okay, well, why don't my relationships work out? What in me is still attracting not quite what I'm looking for? And so, anyway, first, I guess, go back to my 20s. I realized that I had created a story when I was a young girl. And this is where most of our stuff comes from. My mom was a stay at home wife. My dad worked. He traveled a ton for work. So my dad was gone a lot. As an adult, I know my dad was doing what he had to do to provide for the family, but a child, so a
Yeah.
young girl, I created a story So pay attention to my words. I created a story that I wasn't worthy and deserving of dad's time and attention. So that was playing out in my adult relationships that I'm not worthy and deserving of a male's time and attention, which is why I dated workaholic, emotionally unavailable men.
Yep, it's a real thing.
Yeah, so flip the script. I'm not blaming and I'm not complaining. I'm not pointing fingers. I had so much compassion for myself and that younger version of me. Oh my gosh, that story, it's not even true.
Yeah.
And then I had the choice that I got to rewrite it. And since then, I have dated much different men. But again, like I just continue to learn and grow and evolve what I want, my non negotiables. And now I am so crystal clear. I know what I bring to the table. I want an equal, and that I attract not what I want, but who I am being.
Yes. The power, the immense power of self-reflection. And I think sometimes what I've seen, even heck, like personally, like I think sometimes we're afraid to go there. I know, like you mentioned journaling a couple times. So I started journaling in like one of my darkest times. It was a dark season. And the last thing I wanted to do during that season was to actually see the things going on in my brain reflected back to me. It was terrifying. Even the thought of writing down the way I was feeling made me even more angry, made me even more frustrated. And it wasn't until I actually got to kind of that, like we had said, that wake up moment where it was like, well, I don't have anything else to give or to lose, so why not? And I started journaling,
Uh,
and how freeing it actually became to see the just to see it pour out, the emotions that maybe I didn't know how to deal with at the time, the thoughts, the even like you mentioned, like, I mean, the thoughts of being unworthy or whatever it was. And it was actually being reflected back to me. I was holding it in my hands. And it wasn't until I was holding it in my hands that I was no longer holding it in my head, holding it in my body, holding it in my heart. And that then I gave myself an opportunity, just like you said, to rewrite the story, to make a different choice that, okay, if I'm feeling all of these things, where are the patterns showing up? Oh, darn. Okay. If I want a different life, if I want to feel differently, if I want to respond differently, if I want to be a different person, then I have to do something different than what's showing up for me.
Yeah, and what I want to share is it's literally like taking a flashlight. You have to shine a light on the darkness, and that's how you free and liberate yourself. And guess what? Most of us were never taught how to express our emotions. I have so much empathy for men, especially. But
Yeah.
men are taught, but all of us, but men especially are taught to suppress, right? It would be weak. Big boys don't cry, don't be a girl.
Mhm.
So there's
Mhm.
all this emotional suppression, which is
Yeah.
what wreaks havoc and creates chaos in our life. And that's why where I'm at in my life, I really want three things from a man: a guy who's self-aware, emotionally intelligent, and a growth mindset. That's it.
That's it. So if you're listening, call 777. No.
Yeah.
I know, but to your point, how you said, like, you're so crystal clear on it. And now that you're so crystal clear on it, you're putting the energies, you're putting the vibrations, you're showing up as that
Girl.
person too. Look at you, girl.
Well, I just want to share this because I truly believe, and like when we get into quantum physics, you'll understand. Like, you never have to go out and chase. It's not about chasing
Mm,
opportunities, chasing money, chasing a partner. Don't chase, attract. And I just want to share this since it's top of
yeah,
mind. It literally just happened in the last few days. Because I have this new energy and this new vitality and this confidence and this clarity, and I got out of my house. So that's important. Like, you gotta actually, I've become such a homebody, but I got out of my house. And so I just twice in 3 days, I got asked out. Now, were they suitors I want? No. But the good news is I hadn't been hit on and asked out. I felt it felt
oh,
good. And so I just want to share with people, when you do the inner work, that's where all the freedom lies. And then you'll see the breadcrumbs like I did. It's been a long time since I've been asked out or hit on, and then twice in 3 days. Like, that's not a
Yeah.
coincidence. That's a reflection of the change in energy.
Absolutely, what you're attracting and versus
Yeah.
what you refuse to no longer chase.
Right.
Yeah. I think also to something, just how, right, like the people we're hanging out with, they're either contributing to our story in a way that's healthy, or they're contributing to our story in a way that keeps us stuck. What would you say on that?
100%. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I have
Yeah.
become and okay, I had to be transparent. When you're on this growth journey, it is natural. It is inevitable. Relationships and things fall away. Like, I've seen people lose a job because it's no longer aligned. Relationships fall away. I've walked away from a bunch of social circles. It's just like,
Yeah.
you have to understand that things that no longer match your energy will fall away, because it's making room for the new. But
Yes.
I'm also extremely intentional on what I consume, what I listen to, what I surround myself with, that my environment is contributing to my focus and my intention and my vision. Like, when you step into that, that's how you become unstoppable.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Now, as you're saying, like stepping into it and the energies, like something. So sometimes when I'm also like kind of providing that insight, I start to either see or I'll pick up on some like what folks refer to as like, oh, well, that's just really woo-woo mentality. What are your thoughts on that?
I brush it off because
Do you?
again, I love the science lens, because science has data to prove and debunk any quote woo woo. But when
Woo-woo.
you understand, so Nikola Tesla has this infamous quote, and Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, vibration. Then you can get into some ancient wisdom and practices, but we actually have an aura, or an energetic field. Every single human, we have an energetic field. And we're either contracted in fear, doubt, worry, or we're expanded and it's bright based on gratitude, joy, empowered.
Mhm.
And your energy field is made up of two things: it's your thoughts and your emotions. So think of it like this, and that's why I said don't chase, attract. Your
Yep.
thoughts are the electrical signal sending thoughts out. Life is a boomerang. What you put out, you get back.
Yeah.
And so when you're thinking and feeling in alignment with your desires, you're showing up differently. You have a different energetic field. And this is where the saying comes in: your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes. Yep.
So there is
Yep.
no woo woo. Whatever. It's all woo woo and it's all legit.
It's all, yeah, call it whatever you want. It's legit, and I love the way that you bring up like this aura. I think that like when someone is walking around with this high vibration, this high energy, it's a visible difference. And what I know, Tony Robbins, I think he always gives like the example of like, okay, it works two ways. Like everybody imagine what a quote unquote like stereotypical depressed person would be. Is their voice loud? Do they talk slow? Do they talk fast? Are they slouched over? Okay, now if you're not depressed, what do you sound like? It goes both ways. There's very like you can see when someone is living with a high vibration and high energy. And my thoughts are exactly that. Like, call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. It's real.
It's magnetic, and we've all felt energy. We've all walked into a store and it just feels off, or you can walk into someone's like, you can feel energy. We can
Yeah.
sense, when you're repelled by somebody versus when you're like, we feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. Anything in addition to like the relationships kind of piece that you would want to bring forth?
If I Just to summarize it, when you take 100% radical responsibility, what in me is attracting these patterns, these relationships, the failures. Don't beat yourself up, just become curious. What in me is attracting this? A question you can ask yourself: what's the gift in this? What do I have? Peter Crone says it actually. I'll quote him. Peter Crone says, people and circumstances come into your life to reveal where you're not healed. So find the gift. And this is, I also love this one. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Know the difference.
Know the difference. Yeah, that's been part of my
Yeah.
journey too.
And none of us are victims. We are all creators of our reality. If
Yes.
things aren't working, like I will never get into a relationship and struggle and try to make it work. I will work on me. But if it's not working, like, and I mean, that's
Mm,
what I end them. If this isn't
yeah.
working, I move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's
Stop
only, I mean,
rehashing the past unless you wanna keep reliving it.
exactly. I always say, so my husband and I, it's always like the rule of from now on. It's from now on, what choices do we want to make?
Mm,
What choice do I want to make today? Who do I want to be today? Like from now on.
yeah,
And that's where we put our energy. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I ask all of my guests this just so a lot of the conversation and the book that I wrote, it's all about like quitting the things that aren't serving us anymore. So when I say that like phrase, like quitting the things that are not serving you or serving us anymore, what kind of comes to mind for you?
The first thing is like a wobbling mentality. So it's this
Ooh.
idea of having to catch and replace. When you get clear and this, you're feeling real high vibe and inspired and motivated, you're also going to have those wobble days. And if you can control the self-doubt and this isn't working and this is too hard, if you can end the wobble, then you can continue making forward progress instead of this yo-yo roller coaster up and down.
Oh, I feel that. It's like the power in making a decision, right? Like
Mhm.
when you are stuck in the gray versus the black and the like when you are stuck in that yo-yo, you're right. It's awful, it's debilitating, it's paralyzing, and the longer we stay stuck in that back and forth motion, the harder it gets to stop the insanity. It's the hamster wheel, right?
Yep.
Yep, yep. Awesome. I love it. Okay. So then I also started something this year where the last guest has left you a question to answer, and
Mhm.
then you're going to leave the next guest a question. So we'll do theirs first, okay?
Right.
So the last guest, Christina Blinko, she left this one for you, and it says, "How do you know when to go into your next thing while still honoring like that season that you've been in?"
Okay, how do I know when it's time to go to the next thing, but honoring where I'm at? To me, it's connecting with that inner nudge. Like it's a knowing, it's a feeling. I think some people refer to it as a voice. Maybe it's like these whispers, but it's a feeling and it's a knowing. And when something just doesn't light me up anymore, it's time to shift focus and like I just continually do the things that set my soul on fire because I know those are the breadcrumbs.
Beautiful answer. What sets your soul on fire? And two, I think, right? Like I think sometimes we we want to have gratitude for that season that we've been in, and we know that we wouldn't be where we are today without that season. And we also, there's the piece of us that maybe it's what's coming up for me right now is like it's like grief, kind of like what you had mentioned with the relationships that you lose along the way or the things that you lose along the way. And it's very much so a real thing when you get to the end of a season and you almost have to grieve it a little bit because you know it's not serving you anymore, but it's been a part of your journey, but it's comfortable, but it's also time that you've outgrown it and it's time to move on. Follow that inner nudge.
It's a constant shedding, and it really is a death of the old self. I don't look back. There's nothing I would have changed because I had to go through everything I have to get me to today. The struggle. So, Abraham Hicks talks about creating clarity through contrast. You have to experience sickness to know that you desire health. You
Mm,
experience lack to know that you want abundance. You experience loneliness to know you want love and connection. And we're in a world of duality. The Hermetic principles talks
yes.
about polarity. So you're constantly moving through this spectrum, these different polar opposites, and you life comes down to choice. You get to choose which side of the stick you want to be on.
Yep. What side of the stick do you want to be on? Okay, so now it's your turn.
Okay.
So the next guest, sometimes we know who they are, sometimes we don't know who they are, but a question that you want to leave for the next guest to answer. And it can be anything.
Okay. So I want them to share their best billboard message on the power of mindset.
Okay. Okay, well, you got to answer it first. Aha,
Oh,
I didn't tell you that part.
okay. Yeah, so and the reason I said billboard message, because I think
Yep,
things should be short and to the point, easy to understand. So my billboard message
love
is
it.
mindset is everything.
I love it. And what would mine be? Let's see. My best billboard message on mindset. Ooh, I don't know. I guess part of what's coming through right now is there's a piece of me that's like, don't listen. Don't listen to what's in the brain because but I don't fully believe that. But like I said, that's kind of what's coming through. I think you had mentioned like that inner nudge, that inner knowing and trusting your gut and your intuition. I don't think it's the only thing that you can trust though. I think that you do need to like be able to look at your experiences and your seasons and make those choices also from an analytical place. I think that that's what helps us recognize the patterns. Um, so maybe, gosh, I don't know. I got to think on what mine would be. I mean, I definitely feel like your inner knowing, like it's in you. But I think that's more of like well, then your mind, get in your mind to that too. Look at me talking in circles.
It's just so I love this meme. The longest journey any human will take is the 14 inches from their head to their heart. We are
Hashtag truth.
we're so disconnected from our heart. This is our
Yeah.
inner compass because we're so stuck. Well, honestly, if you get into brainwaves, we're so stuck living in stress and burnout and high beta that we're so disconnected. So if you just take time each day, and if you're new to it, spend 5 minutes.
5
But
minutes.
meditation in nature, spend a few minutes every day, sensory deprivation to tune within because everything you need, you can ask questions and get answers, but you've got to create the space.
You have to create the space. Exactly. Exactly. Now, you've got a resource out there. It's the life assessment. Is that a tool to help like listeners create space or can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so it's a totally free resource on my website, heatherhakes.com. The point of the life assessment, I find that most people lack clarity. I spent my 20s literally Googling, how do I find my purpose? What am I supposed to be
Yeah.
doing? So the life assessment helps you create clarity, some, short-term visions. And so that way you have a starting point because awareness is the first step to creating change. Once you have awareness, then you can create clarity and an aim, and then it's about doing the reps.
Excellent. Yep. I will go ahead. Thank you so much. That awareness, like in the tools of actually like gaining that awareness so that you can create the change. I think that so often so much of the world is busy telling us like what to do. Like, oh, you gotta, you gotta make time for yourself. And you're like, okay, but how? Like, how do I become or you've got to get more aware of yourself. And you're like, but how? So I love that this is a resource to actually help people how themselves into some awareness. It sounds really impactful. So I'll make sure that that is linked in the show notes as well. Heather, you have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for just showing up and like serving and unjuggling this with us. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
No, I guess the biggest thing is just I end all of my YouTube videos like this. I just want to remind you that you can have, be, and do anything you want in this lifetime. But first, you have to get out of your own way.
Amen. Excellent. Thanks, Heather. All right, guys. Until next time. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. It means a world to me that you're here to ride in the struggle bus with me and that you're willing to consider different perspectives, tools, and techniques that just might provide a little bit of relief and get you one step closer to the abundance that is available and waiting for us all. I hope you take a moment to grant yourself some grace where you've been denying it, some love where you didn't realize maybe it was right in front of you, and some faith where you thought all was lost. If this episode had an impact on you, would you please share a comment with a review? I'd love to hear what landed for you, and it helps us get the word out to our fellow struggle bus riders. So please review what was impactful for you. Just know these episodes are a pure labor of love in a space where I'm growing alongside you. I'm evolving every day, and I look forward to all the ways and the things and the perspectives and opinions and choices that will change over the course of time in my own life, day to day. Until next time, just know that you are loved, you are divinely cared for, and in the struggle, the journey of this life really is beautiful. I'm glad that we're in it together. Cheers.